This is NuNuu Smith, and I am here with a longtime friend that I reconnected with on Facebook. If you don't know what Facebook is, I think you should really check that out. Rocio Castro. We went to high school together. She's phenomenal. She's inspirational. If you don't know who she is, you should know who she is. You really should. Hi, Rocio. She's here from New York because she's a New York girl now. She's a New Yorker.
Official.
What? Official?
Official.
Official. And we're just gonna record while we talk. We're at the Wooden Tap in Hartford, and we haven't seen each other in a while. We haven't had a chance to, really catch up on things. We've been talking, but it was mostly about me. Now it's time to talk about Rocio. And just welcome to our conversation.
Hello.
So anyway, we were just talking about inspirations and being motivational and stuff, and how Rocio is always happy, and it does seem like she's always happy. So I'm gonna stop talking. You start talking about Rocio. It's very what you said is interesting because it's really important to see like the positive in a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
It takes so much energy. Like I know when I'm feeling down about something or someone, it just takes so much to be down.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's hard, especially when someone's disappointing you or something. It's hard not to hold on to that disappointment. Because a lot of times it's like, okay, they're gonna do it again, even though they said sorry. So I don't know. It's hard, and I'm trying to make a point of it, like you are, to just be positive. I put my Facebook status the other day. I let go about disappointment.
Yeah.
It's hard. How do you? Is it that you don't let things disappoint you, or?
No, I mean, granted, I've been disappointed a lot, and recently, actually, I was a big disappointment. But I think I'm just at a place in my life where I've realized that it's a waste of an emotion. So I think it takes you first recognizing that you don't want to be in that state, and then making conscious efforts to put it in action. And like I said, for the last 2 or maybe 3 years, and I've generally always been a really positive or happy person, but obviously I worked in a really shady industry for a while. Yes. Sorry. So it was kind of, I went through this phase maybe right after I finished school, and I started working at Sean John, where it was a great place. I loved it. It was like a dysfunctional family, but it was a very heavily negative place. It was. It's very much like, it's just a shady business. So I would say I found myself during that time period being a little bitchy, real short. I definitely let it get to me. Definitely let, working so hard and dealing with celebrities really put me in a place where when I look back, I was like, I was so ugly, But then I appreciate that time period, not only because of the job, but because it was eye-opening and allowed me to see that life is about so much more. So then I just put myself in a place, and then of course my faith, where it's like, it's a waste of an emotion, and I'm so blessed with everything, even having a job in a shady place or whatever, because of what I got out of it. So I definitely think it's a mental state that you allow yourself to be in the same way you would allow yourself to be into a negative mental state. So I wish I could have a more intricate answer. I probably be really rich.
Oh, yeah. Write that book.
Exactly. But it's more about the ability to put yourself in a positive state. Like even being born with a disability, which I don't call it a disability.
You are definitely not. You may not have everything that everybody else has. However, you are not the same. There are people with all of their facilities who aren't doing anything.
Exactly.
And you are just fabulous.
Thank you.
Doing everything.
But I think that's allowed me to be, my mom always says it's like the Lord knows what he gives certain people. And I've never allowed it to stop me from anything. Not to say that I'm like this, I want it. I wish I had a lot more hustle in me than I do. But it's definitely, it gives me a sense of humbleness and a sense of like, I have so much more even with this. You know, and it allows you to really put yourself in situations where you don't even realize that you've impacted people until they come and tell you these things.
No, what is this? Because the people who don't know what this is. This.
My birth effect?
Yes. We don't know. I know, but people don't know.
Well, I was born with 2 fingers on my left arm. So it's something that I've just always known and had, and I guess I never really saw it myself differently until I went to middle school. Middle school is a tough time period, so I found myself wearing long sleeves all the time. And even at that age where you're not mature enough to really understand, I was forced to be mature because I was forced to make conscious efforts to like hide my mom. And then, you know, it's also a tough age. You're like 13, you're finding yourself, your body's changing, all these things, especially as a woman. And, you know, I got picked on a little bit. That whole bullying thing that has become really big right now. I guess I experienced it to a very small degree, but then something happened when I went to high school. I just didn't even care anymore. So I guess it's just as you grow. And then now as an adult, it's like, I don't even think about it. But I immediately know when someone notices
someone else is thinking.
Absolutely. But it's just, you know, I've had the ability to talk to children who are born with birth defects because initially when you think of a birth defect, you think of a mental retardation or something. So that was really good when I was here in college and I had the ability to talk to children. And, you know, I coached this little girl who had prosthetic arms and she was trying to swim. So that was good. But it definitely, you know, it's allowed me to just kind of, everyone has something. You just got to make the best of what you have. Easier said than done. And I wish I could immerse and insert that emotion into certain people. But I'm blessed to be able to be like, you know what? You make it work.
Now, how did you... I find it amazing to just be a witness to some of the things that people that I know that I grew up with are doing. But you're all over the place. I must say, I was a little green when I saw your little pictures, your little bikini, and on a yacht and everything. So I'm like, I want to be on a yacht. Why she didn't take me on a yacht? But like, you've done so much. How did you first get into the fashion industry?
So it happened kind of unplanned. So I went to University of Hartford, and I initially got into Columbia, and my goal was to be in New York. They didn't give me a good amount of money, and University of Hartford, because of the Hartford Scholars Program, was paying for everything. So in my head, as we discussed earlier, I said I would go there, and then I go to law school or get my business degree wherever I was, and go to Columbia and do that. Point being, I never went to Columbia because I went to University of Hartford, and then I went to London through this program at the University of Hartford. And similar to what you said earlier about, you know, not going to college or debt, or, you know, I've always been a believer that college isn't necessarily for everyone. And living in London for that time period definitely gave me more exposure than college ever did. So I was there for a semester, but I stayed.
Okay.
So I went for a semester, I came back, I graduated, and then I went back for a year. And I had to come back and get a job and wake up to real life. But it was great exposure. I did, you know, and it wasn't like I said I wanted to go into fashion. It kind of never even happened like that. I wanted to do something in the industry, and I didn't know what I wanted to do. But living in London exposed me to London Fashion Week, and I took photography classes, and then it became from black and white to color photography, and it became fashion PR, and then it developed into something that I was like, oh, I really enjoyed this. So then finally, when I had to come back, I literally was watching, believe it or not, episodes of Making the Band. Mm-hmm. And I felt so inspired by this woman on the show. Her name is Tracy. Mm-hmm. And she, at the time, worked with Private. I believe she was the head of marketing. Mm-hmm. And I said, I want to work for that brand. And in the moment,
you didn't actually think that you would end up like,
absolutely not.
I want to work for him.
No.
And it probably didn't get past that.
No.
Oh my goodness. But you put that out there.
Yes. Yes. I think this is ours.
Excellent.
Very
complimented.
You're welcome. Please be careful.
Thank you.
I love food.
You have to have it.
Chill.
Let's just finish that.
Is it here? Oh, delicious.
I know, right? Mm-hmm. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Is there anything you need right now?
No, I think
Thank you.
So that being said, I saw an episode of Making the Band, and I was like, I'm gonna work for them. Mm-hmm. Not realistically thinking anything of it, but I do have this vision board concept.
That's funny because I just told my boyfriend that we need to do our vision boards because that's what we discussed that in the dream work.
And you'll realize that even all these concepts that you've thought of, once you put them on your vision board, something happens. I don't know if it's energy, I don't know what it is, where you find yourself with a different focus and they come to fruition.
The Secret. Have you read The Secret?
No.
It's actually very interesting.
Is it? I have it.
Very interesting. I've listened to it several times.
Mm-hmm.
And I watched it. Mm-hmm. And I've read it. And it's in line with my spirituality. Mm-hmm. It's in line with everything that I already believe. Mm-hmm. It just enforces it even more. Mm-hmm. As a woman, as a man, I think that's so easy. And it's basically that concept explained, not torn apart, but dissected and presented in a way that everybody can understand it. And either you take that knowledge and you run with it, or you just take it and you just leave it there. Mm-hmm. And that's what you did. You put that out into the universe. I always say when I throw something out into the universe, I literally say it.
And pick up, and trust me, if you don't execute it, someone else is going to grab it.
So it's out there.
Yeah. So my mom still has the vision board in my house because she won't take it down. But it literally was like, move to New York, work at Sean John.
Wow.
Become more spiritual, closer to God. All these things that in that year I felt were my, my turnstile years. That was when I really found myself being able to pray out loud and do things that when you're younger you don't necessarily feel comfortable with, or you have some insecurities. Even the most secure people find themselves in categories.
Sometimes they're the most insecure.
For sure.
They appear secure, but they're not really. You can definitely have some of this.
Oh, no, I'm fine. So I sent my resume to Sean John for 6 months straight. And then...
How many times a month did you send it?
Every day. And I'll tell you a funny story. We're in Brooklyn. My sister lived in New York at the time. We're in Brooklyn. And this guy, Deshane, walks in. And she knows him. They work together at Banana Republic for a little while, but she didn't really know him. She's like, oh, I think he works at Sean John. She didn't know about my thought process. So I was like, what? So me, because I'm a strong believer and you have to grab whatever opportunity, and I'm also a strong believer of supporting people who are trying to do things. So I just went up to Deshane. I didn't even know him, and I had met him right in that second where my sister's like, oh, this is Deshane, whatever. And I was like, listen, My strategy work at Sean John, I really love just for you to give them my resume, whatever. I had already been sending it for 5 months. He's like, okay, so he sends the resume, he gets back to me, he's like, there's nothing open right now, so I just put it into prayer, I kept on my vision board. A month and a half later, I get a phone call from Sean John, and they're looking for a marketing assistant. And Deshane had given them my resume before, but it was like, we want you to come in. So I'll tell you, in a week, I went to interview, came back. They called me back for a second interview. I went, I came back. This was Thursday. I'll never forget, I was at Baby Gap. That's where I was working. They called and made me an offer, and that same day I got 2 offers here in Connecticut. After 6 months of not having a job. They made me an offer, they were like, we need you to start tomorrow. So I'm living in Connecticut at the time. So I just went. And that's literally how I started in the industry. And then I joined the company, and a month later, my director left. So I was out to fend for myself. So within the 4 years at Sean John, I started as a marketing assistant. I ended my career there as a senior manager. And I ended my career there as the only person in marketing. From 6 people. Because,
to you.
To me. Because the way he kind of works, and he being Puff, is kind of like, everything you've seen on TV is basically true. Like, if he doesn't like you, he doesn't think you're good enough, whatever, he will fire you right in front of everyone. But I'm a big believer in, if you're good at what you do, and you're not afraid to say when you don't know something, but you will look into it, then no one can ever say anything about you. And I was huge on not ever being labeled a groupie. Like, I was not going to sleep with anybody. Was not going to allow any of that.
Do you need anything, Lisa?
No, I think we're good.
All right.
I was very adamant, because I'll tell you why. There was a time where I was interviewing people for internships, and I had girls show up in like bodysuits and like cleavage down to here, and I'm like, this is not a video set. Like, this is a job. And it kind of enlightened me and awakened me to the fact that I was in a place where a lot of people would do a lot of things to be. That being said, it was one of the best things that ever happened to me, and opened the doors to everything that came after that, and kind of where I am now.
Make your vision boards. Definitely do that. So now you're working for Kohan. Kohan. And what I want to talk about there is that I saw that you guys did something to kind of help out with the Storm Sandy relief efforts. What exactly did you do? Because from the photo, I couldn't really tell what it was that you did, and I didn't want to ask you because I knew I wanted to interview you, and I didn't want the information I wanted to be fresh to me. So, what did you guys do?
So, just to go back a little bit, basically, I went from Sean John to Rockaware to a few other brands. I was at Tracy, and then I feel like Kohan is the next place since Sean John, believe it or not, as dysfunctional as it was, is the only place where I feel like I belong, in the sense of like, works on my career, my opinion is respected, it gives me exposure, allows me to be who I am. It's in a different setting, and at Sean John it was events, it was dealing with celebrities, it was photo shoots, it was a lot of fun stuff. I was 21, 22, it was like, that's all I wanted to do. You know, now 10 years later, I oversee all of the brand development and business development, which is new business coming into Kohan.
New business as in
fashion, there's things called licensing, and in the world there's a lot of licensing. As a consumer, we're not aware of it. But what I oversee is all new business. So, for instance, Kohan makes shoes, bags, coats, socks, sunglasses. But what the consumer doesn't know is that the coats and the sunglasses in certain categories are made in other companies. So they kind of pay us a royalty, and they pay us to use the name. So my job is to, one, acquire new categories to grow the brand and the business, but also to maintain and oversee the existing ones. So it's like $80 million worth of business. All that being said, the Sandy relief effort was that Kohan donated, I don't know how many thousands of brand new boots for men and women, rain boots, nice, beautiful boots. Same thing a consumer would buy. We donated coats, we donated scarves and gloves. So the image you saw of me was that we partnered with the YWCA in New York. And basically we were organizing them by size, and then tomorrow, ironically, we go to the Rockaways and we're going to distribute everything. So it's so cool to be a part of a company who could have done nothing and was like, we're not. You know, I have 2 friends at work who lost everything. You know, and it's, where do you start? How do you start? And when we look at images and we only think of the Midwest or things happening like that in other countries. But literally, I have a girlfriend who lost everything. And they had to move and they have an address. You know, so it puts things into perspective, and we were very lucky. I live in Harlem, and nothing. We didn't even lose power. But whatever I can do to give back, even if it's, you know, volunteering and stacking boxes and sweating with no ventilation, But it was just something small that in the bigger picture was something so big that we didn't have to do. So in 3 years that I've been there, it gave me such a sense of pride to be a part of something like that. And tomorrow I think is going to be kind of emotional for me because it makes it so real, you know, to have people who are probably professionals and intelligent and very well established to be in line to get boots and coats because they've lost everything. You know, it's I mean, not that it makes it any better if you're homeless and you've been for years, but it's to go from being established to having nothing in no time. So I think that was a great thing that we did, and we continue to do things like that. And we're, you know, for Christmas we get frapping for, you know, people affected by Sandy as well. So it's a tough time of year, but it'll be fun. And things like this is what kind of brings me back to what we were discussing earlier, that allows me to really remain positive and really see the blessings and that being filled with whatever other attitude is probably in the bigger scheme of things.
And seeing where you are in life, it intrigues me because we both came from the exact same place, and I just want to know what it is that you do. I just want to check on you and see what you do and see what kind of experiences and what, like, even just a day with someone, you can kind of.
Do you have to go by?
Yeah. Oh, go ahead. Even just a day with someone, you can get an idea of what shapes them. And I'm very interested in seeing what shapes you. You're still the Rocio that I knew from high school. But there's other things that are there that I'm very interested in. And I can't pinpoint to say, well, it's that, and I want to see how you do that. It's just something.
Yeah. I mean, and I will say, I do want to mention that it hasn't been easy. You know, I know I've come home, I run into people and they're like, oh yeah, you got too big or whatever, but it's not even that. Like, even as of recently, in the fashion world, which is similar to the world in general that we live in, and this might be a comment that's out of place, but I'm going to say it anyway. The fashion world is led by white men and then white gay men. So I had an interview for a brand recently, and you know, because even though I really love my job, it's always good to stay relevant and stay out there. And I had various recruiters contact me about the same position at this place, which I won't mention. So I was like, fine. So I did a Skype interview most recently with a recruiter. And as we're speaking, she used the word pedigree a lot. You know, it's been very, she's
like a dog.
As in, like, basically, very nice woman, white woman, very nice. She had seen my resume and was very impressed. And she made a comment to me, and the reason I'm pointing this out is because I want people who do watch this or who want to know about me or whatever. It's similar to you, you know, coming from Harvard, what is it? It's having persistence and also knowing the value of who you are. And I say this because as I'm talking to her, I was like, she used the word pedigree, and she mentioned that my experience was very heavily urban based at the beginning of my career. And she said, so, you know, I spoke to them and they do want to meet with you, but I'm going to be honest with you, not just for comment. And I said to her, you know, in that moment I knew I didn't even want the job anymore. And I said to her, I was like, you know, I will tell you this, that yes, my experience is Sean John. I went to Rockaware. I've also worked for Gaji Mishka. I've also worked on mainstream brands like Candies and Ellen Tracy. But I will tell you this, that I see it as a plus to have not only worked at Sean John and Rockaware, but worked with Jay-Z, Sean himself, and Puff, Sean himself. You know, I didn't report into anyone. I've also had somehow I always report into the main person. And I definitely think that's always been the Lord's doing, because there's no reason that as a marketing assistant, a marketing coordinator, or whatever, I should be having meetings with Puff. That should not, in a bigger scheme, that doesn't happen, so I don't want people to think that. So I expressed to her that absolutely that's what my background is, and I'm extremely proud of it, and I would hope that that's not a deterrent. If anything, it's a skill set.
It's an asset.
Exactly. You know, I reported to him directly, and, you know, both Sean's directly. Like, the fact that I can report to them should show you the type of person that I am. Like, these people are not animals, they're successful business people. And I said that to her, and I said, and you know what? I'm also going to tell you that I am actually no longer interested in this position, because I know exactly who they're looking for, and they're not looking for me. So I'll tell you that if I was really excited about this job, I would fight for it, absolutely. But I'm not even really excited about working for this brand. And the tone you're giving me already establishes that they're not looking for me. And I really hope they find who they're looking for. They've been looking to fill their position for a year. And I told her, you're the 5th person to contact me about it. And I really liked her approach. So I met with her. All this being said, racism is alive and well, and I deal with it a lot. I'm Latin, I'm tan, I have big curly hair, and it's who I am, you know. Pedigree means they were looking for a blonde girl with blue eyes who came from Prada or Gucci, and I hope that's who they find. But all this being said is that when you have a dream, or when you want to be somewhere, or when you want to accomplish something, you always have to know the worth of your work and your skill set and who you are. And for me to allow myself to go and even go to another interview with these people after they use terminology like pedigree is not something that I wanted to do. So no matter how young, college, high school, an adult, whatever, once you've established your self-worth, nothing should be able to deter you or stop you from saying yes to something or saying, actually, this isn't something I'm interested in. You know, so it's been hard and fun, super fun. But You know, I don't even pay attention to people anymore. We're like, oh, she got lucky or she got this.
It's so